Thank you very much, Councilman. This evening I'd like to have us focus for a second on the general fund carryover, which has become substantial. One of the first questions may ask, well, okay, so is this money in the general fund carryover, which is currently, I think, around $5 million, burning a hole in my pocket or what? That's not the case. What we'd like to do is ask the question why we need to talk about it. And I think you all remember last October when it became clear that the income and the increase in the property taxes paid by the residents of the city of Vermilion were due to come back to the city for city use. However, it looked like it was a possibility that Erie County could withhold some of the property taxes that were due back to the city of Vermilion. And we were given that heads up by some people in the county themselves. They said, well, why would they want to withhold some of those taxes that our own people pay? The answer is because our own general fund, in some people's opinion, was excessive and it was unallocated. It was just sitting there. So why let people have the county property tax come back to the city? So at that time, we managed to get past that. And there was never an effort to withhold funds coming back to the city. I feel that if the people of Vermilion paid for this property tax, then they should enjoy whatever benefits can be taken from that. The city doesn't get a lot of the property tax that is generated. Most of it goes to the schools and levies and other things. But there's a small portion that goes back to the city, and we should get all of that. So what I'm here to talk about tonight is possibly let's define where we recommend, for your consideration, that some of this $5 million carryover can go. And by the way, I want to make note that 8 years ago, when we started here, there was about $300,000 and some in the general fund carryover. There is now about $5 million carryover, thanks to the good fiscal management of our award-winning finance director. So let's see what we might be able to consider recommending to you to do with that. Number one would be, we recommend that $2 million of that $5 million carryover go to the streets capital. I mean, however long ago that was that I was on council and I was in charge of the Streets, Buildings, and Grounds Committee, every year there's anxiety over what the heck, where can we get more money to fix one more bad street? The city of Vermilion has no shortage of bad streets. What we're recommending is to take the $2 million and use it for Pine View Drive or Brown Helm Station Road, at least a section of Brown Helm Station between Vermilion Road and High Bridge. That's an either or, couldn't do both. Now, Service Director, I believe that will cover most of Pine View, won't it?
Yes, $2 million would get Pine View completely paved, and it would be very close to get, and probably we would be able to get Brown Helm Station Road paved from that section, from Vermilion Road to High Bridge Road. I mean, these are streets that we have pursued grants for, OPWC grants, and have not been able to obtain it because they just don't score high enough. Brown Helm Station, we've never really tried for a grant because it's not a major collector, and you don't get traffic count, so it wouldn't score high enough to get us any grant money.
I think Brown Helm Station Road comes up, we did a popularity contest for the worst streets in town. Brown Helm Station would come up pretty high. It's mentioned at council quite frequently. And Pine View Drive, I mean, that's virtually a through street as one's traveling through Valley View. I went through there on the way here tonight. And it's horrible. I'm not even going to argue whether it's the worst street in town, but it's horrible. And during the summer, it has intense traffic because that's where our city's pool is. And it's just a very bad street. So without tapping into the existing streets funds, maybe we could set aside $2 million to do Pine View or get at Brown Helm Station Road. We think that would be a good investment of this money that we set aside. The next suggestion we would have would be $570,000 to the service department for equipment. Tony, do you want to describe what the investment we're going for?
Yeah, I mean, we're still trying to get newer trucks for snow plows. We still have 2 of them out there that are pretty old. We'd like to get another new one. The one we ordered almost 2 years ago, we're not gonna get till April. So that's how long they take to get. Now, I've heard the waiting time has gotten a little better, but snow plow truck, and then the distribution department uses a dump truck for main brakes and for various other things. That truck's 27 years old, and it's a small dump truck. It's very inefficient, and we patched the bed on that truck I don't know how many times because of it's rusted through in certain spots. So we'd like to see a new truck for the distribution department as well.
So it's just the fact of life that the city of our small size, as busy as we are, the equipment's going to wear out. And that knowing full well that we're going to need to find the money somewhere at some time to take care of these equipment replacements, we're suggesting that $570,000 go into the service department equipment fund. And the third item is $750,000 from the property tax growth that we were just referring to will go to the sewer capital fund. And God knows we have enough places in the sewer capital to put $750,000. And Amy, would you want to talk a little bit more to where that might go?
We already have on the books a sewer and a water capital fund. Transferring the funds into that area would reserve those to be used for anything related to capital expenditure for wastewater around the city.
So those are our 3 recommendations. What this makes the general fund then look like, from Carol. It's, I don't know if you can read this pie chart, but Amy can talk to it. The big pie there is about $5 million worth of overage. Is that right, Amy?
That's correct. And in the listing down below, itemizing, it's showing the streets, the capital equipment, as well as the sewer project funding, but also, most importantly, you hear me talk every year about the financial health indicators that the state puts out for city governments. And for us, we have been very successful in converting that from a lot of red and yellow ink to green. And I certainly do not want that to be a legacy that it's not. The criteria is 30 days operating cash is what the state uses as their benchmark for adequate reserves for the general fund. In all of these calculations, we are keeping roughly a 60-day reserve that would be available at the end of 2025, or approximately $1.5 million in cash. So twice what the state calls for.
It keeps us like a rainy day fund that they encourage us.
Correct. We've seen too many times in the past, but that's been too squeaky.
We can accomplish these 3 recommendations if you choose to go this way and still have enough of the funds. It's not enticing to the county to hold in future taxes that should come to the benefit of the city, but we'll keep our rainy day fund in place. Now, the question I'm sure I would ask if I were you is, why go with the general fund and use it for the recommendations you just had here now, the 3, versus the wastewater rates? Well, we know that we are going to run short of streets money. Every year it's the same thing, so we know we're going to be dying to find some money somewhere to fund one more bad street this year again, just like we have every other year that I've been in city service. Also, we know that the equipment is going to wear out. We're going to need to find it somewhere. And that's another reason why I would suggest putting that money aside, since we have it anyway. And the third item would be that there was absolutely a proliferation of places to put sewer funds, whether it's going to be for the existing mandate or revised mandate or whatever. The sewer fund is an absolute. The wastewater rates, as we talked about last week, we are very close to getting the green light from the US EPA to go ahead and renegotiate our mandate, to stretch it out, as we said, and as Ed St. John said when he was in here. That naturally will allow us to have a longer term of this mandate. It allow us to possibly hook up with the 6119 when that happens. The whole shebang here is going to be, it's going to still cost money, but it's going to be a lot less than what the original mandate was. So my point is that eventually, hopefully we'll have this nailed down by the end of the year, the wastewater rates are going to come down anyway. If we use the general fund money that we have now against those rates, we're still going to be back looking for places for equipment, for streets, and more money for the wastewater fund. So I'm suggesting we use the general fund for hitting some of these things that we know we're going to need, and let the wastewater rates play out as we have it in play. In fact, I just had feedback from the US EPA Enforcement Office last week that said that they, of course, received the letter, my letter, and then St. John's letter, and what they say, they're very in favor of our program. They're supportive of what we're trying to do, which is stretch it out and cut back and put it 6119. They have to wait for the administrations to change in Washington, which I guess is every 4-year or 8-year thing. But they plainly stated we're on board, we're ready to go. So by the end of the year, we should have the wastewater rates refigured out and a way to get back and reducing them. So our recommendation is that $2 million to the streets, $570 to the service department equipment fund, and property tax growth would go to the sewer fund. That's our request. And Amy, are there some specific devices we need for this, set aside or something?
For the money to go to the sewer capital fund, we would need legislation approving that transfer from the general fund to that fund. The streets also would be legislation transferring that money to the streets capital fund. And then as far as the service department equipment, in that particular one, legislation to authorize the service director to go out to bid for those, and then once we had the final prices, we would transfer that money into either the water distribution for the dump truck or streets fund for the plow.
And with that, I will shut up. If you folks have questions.